So if everybody, we can get moving here. Okay, so folks, on the hearing schedule, you have 4 bills, but actually House Bill 1063 we're not going to need to do or have to do. So we're just talking 3 bills, and we're going to start with House Bill 858 from Delegate Hill.
All right.
And thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And you take the time you need to present
Very
House
good.
Bill 858.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and I guess the vice chair will be here shortly. So Terry Hill for the record, Howard County, and I'm here to present House Bill 858, which establishes a statewide mattress stewardship program. So let me explain why this is important. So mattresses are among the most difficult household items to dispose of. They're bulky. They are costly to landfills, not only because they take up so much space, and I'm talking about the mattresses and the box springs, but also because they cause damage to the equipment and which have to be continually repaired. At the same time, mattresses, 85% are recyclable. So we've got the wood component, we've got the steel springs, we've got the fabric. And so what we have found over the last 10 to 15 years in other states is that if you disassemble the mattress into component parts, we can recycle about 85%, as I said, and the rest can be disposed of in less bulky and problematic fashion. So right now, here in the state, we have several jurisdictions that have mattress disassembly and recycling programs. The rest are landfilling them. And to landfill them, it costs the taxpayers a fair amount of money to maintain those landfills. And as I said, the capacity of the landfills is now down to less than 20 years. And so what this bill will do is it will help extend the landfill life. It will be environmentally sensitive by recycling most of this material. It also is an economic engine because the renovators who handle this kind of work will be able to hire more people to do what is not simply minimum wage job, but it's actually certificate skilled labor that pays more than minimum wage. So these are really life-supporting jobs, skilled jobs. So we met with a broad range of stakeholders and have the support of not just the mattress industry, which has been doing this kind of stewardship, extended producer responsibility work in other states since about 2014, but we also have the support of MACO, the state recyclers, and the environmentalist. And so with that, I really urge a favorable report. I think that this will put this issue to bed once and for all. And that this is really a win-win-win. It's a win for the from the environmental aspect. It's a win from the economic aspect, and it's a win for the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the springboard for passing your.
The springboard, yes, we want to spring back and, yes.
Because we've been coiled up and.
Yes.
Okay, back on the bill. Questions for the sponsor of the bill? Dr. Delegate Terry Hill.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator August.
I apologize. I had stepped out just for a moment. I'm not sure what instructions you may or may not give. And I know we're sponsor only on the bill. But we ask a question or?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing the bill. And that was obviously a little bit of the explanation of it. Can you just share, like, the value proposition of it? Because I think that's important. Like, the framework of this one, where it does have a consumer portion of it, can you just share sort of like the why on that plus the benefit, the
Sure.
financial benefit, please?
Sure, thank you. So essentially, if you think about it, when we dispose of mattresses today, we do one of two things. We either have them hauled, or we haul them off to a landfill, or we dump them at the side of the road. And when they're dumped at the side of the road, that also becomes a problem for local jurisdictions who have to go out there, drag them out, and bring them into the landfill, and again, just kind of throw them out. So when we recognized that burying these bulky items and allowing them to degrade over time doesn't really make sense, and that in reality, they have, as I stated before, recyclable parts that take up to 85% of the mattress. It became clear that there's a smarter way to do this. And when we do that, what we're doing is saving the taxpayer money at the local level. The program, as designed, takes that burden off, so we have when you do these kind of stewardship things, you either have a nose or a tail, right? So you're either gonna pay something up front, or you're gonna pay something at the end. And a lot of our local landfills and bulk disposal waste facilities are charging at the time that you drop things off. This shifts that at the time of a purchase of a mattress, you would pay a fee, and in the states where this is already in place, that fee ranges from about $16 a mattress to $22 a mattress. And that's on a mattress that most people are gonna have in their home for 10 to 15 years. So you're talking about $1 or less than $1 a year is what you're paying for the eventual disposal of this item. When we're landfilling them, in addition to taking up the landfill space, and I think in the testimony, we talk about available capacity about being 49 million tons, and CY22, which is about 21 years of capacity that's left. In addition to that, the machinery that is used to haul and move things around are frequently broken because of these big devices. And you can talk to the locals and they'll tell you about how much damage it does. So they're constantly having to repair the machinery as well. What this does, and we did a site visit to a renovator in Baltimore County. They bring them in from the landfills, from the deposit sites, from wherever. In many cases, the counties, as part of their bulk pickup, they have mattresses set aside. They pick them up, they bring them in, they hire people who pull them apart. They take those component parts, they compound them, compact them, and then they sell them downstream to people who then recycle them, okay? So that's the value, is we are saving or extending landfill capacity. We don't have the same repair and equipment costs that we're absorbing now, and most of that's being absorbed at the local level. The state's not really having any part of that. And the cost goes to, yes, it's passed on to the consumer, but again, you're talking about a cost that is, you're spending about every 10 to 15 years. And it's a very minimal cost. We've also found that, well, let me just stop there and see if there are any additional questions. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Senator Gallion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Delegate. So just in brief conversations, it sounds like talking with Mako, they have some major concerns with this. So one thing I'd just like to ask, we could get out on the table, since this bill bans disposal in landfills and incineration, what happens if the program doesn't work? How can a county dispose of a mattress if the program is delayed or doesn't happen at all?
Okay, so they may be looking at the people you spoke to a previous iteration, because this bill bans incineration and landfilling over time with exceptions. And the exceptions are for deeply contaminated mattresses. And the department will determine what those exceptions are. So if there was a mass murder on a mattress, we're not going to rehab that one. We're not going to tear it apart. If there were bed bugs, We're not going to rehab that. We're not going to tear it. It's going to be disposed of in the landfill. It's going to be incinerated. So those are allowed, but they're allowed under very narrow circumstances.
Okay, so if the program does not work, then what's the fail-safe? What do we fall back on then?
Well, I guess we didn't really anticipate that because this has been piloted and tested and it's ongoing in other states. What we do say is that as the program begins to support itself, okay, then those fees have to come down to reflect that. So if we're beginning to make so much money for selling those still springs over again, and for selling the fabric to make the pet beds and other things that they're used for, and selling that wood, then those costs come down. We also have asked in the designing of the program that we look at whether or not it makes sense, instead of having a single flat fee, that they tier it on 1 or 2 or maybe 3 tiers. For instance, that a king size mattress fee might be different from your crib. Okay, other states don't do that. A mattress is a mattress is a mattress. But we're asking for this program to be very responsive to the needs of our constituents and to be designed to address those kinds of issues.
Thank you.
Okay, Senator Carosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate Hill, for presenting the bill. My understanding, and I'm trying to catch up a little bit on the whole mattress stewardship program, you've got jurisdictions in Maryland that already have collections or drop-off options for mattresses and other
Right, that
unusual-
taxpayers are
okay.
supporting.
And they are funded through taxpayer dollars. I understand that the proponents of this program claim that the local waste management costs will decrease over time as more jurisdictions participate in the program. But the concern is it's unlikely that Marylanders will see that corresponding decrease in their local taxes and waste disposal prices. So there's a disconnect here.
Oh, I think what they're speaking to when they say we'll be unlikely to see that is because I think what they're saying is that local jurisdictions don't necessarily adjust their fees based on their costs going up and down. So sometimes costs go up and they don't pass that on, they absorb it, and sometimes costs go down. But I think that's a local jurisdiction issue. And if the local jurisdictions are seeing those costs go down, then certainly we as legislators can impress upon them, the constituents can press upon them that they want to see that reflected as well.
But my understanding is with this bill, they're going to be paying new assessments, and that's in addition to the local taxes and fees.
So the purchaser will be paying an additional one-time fee. The local jurisdictions are actually going to be reimbursed, which they're not now, for any costs that they're absorbing to handle mattress and box springs. In fact, the bill is very explicit about that, so that the fees have to cover the cost of the program throughout the state. And it allows that if local jurisdictions currently have contracts with haulers and renovators, that those contracts can be honored and rolled into the program. And instead of the local jurisdiction having to pay those contracts, the program would reimburse them for those contracts. So the program takes those costs over for the local jurisdiction. How the local jurisdiction passes those savings on to its taxpayers is up to the local jurisdiction.
Well, I think where the disconnect is that you already have these programs that are handling items such as mattresses that are already paid for by the taxpayers. And then in addition to that, there's going to be a new assessment on the mattresses. And I think that's where the disconnect is.
And I guess what I'm saying is that as the program reimburses them, those local jurisdictions should be passing that back to the taxpayer. That's not at the state level, that's at the local jurisdiction. So if they're charging a fee for something they're no longer doing, that the state has taken over and is now being covered by the fee, then the local jurisdiction should not be passing that on to the taxpayer.
And I think that's where we have the disconnect with, we're getting signals with Mako and others as well, that it's being presented, everything's worked out, and we're hearing, at least from our locals, that it really is not.
I think they haven't read the revised bill with all the amendments in it that came out of the House. That's the only thing I can, that I can think, and they don't, because again, that was one of the things that we made sure was in this year's bill that was not in previous bills, is making sure that they're reimbursed for those contracts.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 858. Delegate McComas, why don't you come up here on House Bill 1255?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Ms. Vice Chair and committee. This bill is a pretty simple bill, although the simple can be complex and vice versa, the complex simple. HB 255 is a land use historic preservation commission right to appeal. And the bill was amended in the House so that it does not do anything to harm any jurisdictions that demand that the right to appeal has to go to the circuit court. It just allows, if the folks want to amend it or amend the bill, they would have to have a municipal ordinance to do that, to not amend the bill, but to have the option to go to the Board of Appeals for the jurisdiction where the historic property resides and where the owners wish to appeal the decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. The bill, the genesis is from the town of Bel Air, which is my home turf, but it's 3 square miles. It has new development, but it has a lot of historic properties on some of the major roads that folks want to maintain and keep. And some may be purchasing properties that they want to go into the Historic District Commission. And the commission was the genesis for this bill because it's a small community. It's only 10,000 residents. It's the county seat for Harford County. It has a lot of history. And so that this is something that if they don't wish to go to circuit court, which is expensive, you have to have the transcript, you have to file a lawsuit, you have the filing fees, you might have to get some experts. If it can go to the Board of Appeals for that local jurisdiction where this issue is started, that'll be much easier for the folks. And then they still have the right to that they can, if they disagree with what the Board of Appeals decided of the local community, they can still go to the circuit court. So it's kind of a win-win. And Baltimore City filed a notice that they wanted us to make sure that that didn't do anything to harm their right to go to the circuit court. So that was amended into the bill, perfect, and there was no opposition. This was just, they wanted that included. And so that allows all the counties to do what they want to do if they want it to stay with the circuit court.
Okay, questions for the sponsor, Delegate McComas? Seeing none. Includes bill hearing on House Bill 1255.
Thank you, committee. I appreciate it very much.
Brings us to our final bill for today, House Bill 1348, Delegate Ampry. And although this was published as sponsor only, we will have the sponsor, Councilwoman, but then, okay.
Can the Councilwoman join?
Okay, come on up, and then we're going to do that, though the bill didn't pass unanimously out of the House. We're going to have at least one opposition testimony on this one, okay?
That's fine.
So, Delegate Ampry.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, for the record, Delegate Marlon Ampry here in support of House Bill 1348. I'll be truly brief. This bill came out of watching a tragedy happen in my neighborhood about a year, almost 2 years ago. There was a horrendous fire that woke me up at 3 a.m., went outside to see 5 houses on fire. People were crying, trying to find their pets, trying to make sure their loved ones were okay. And I got to see what these scenes look like. Another fire happened a year later around the corner from my neighborhood. And talking with fire chiefs and others, there's been an issue with certain companies and institutions trying to offer disaster mitigation services. While we understand the need to make sure people have access to disaster mitigation services as soon as possible, we also want to make sure that we are thoughtful around the tragedy people are dealing with and making sure that they are not signing into contracts that are possibly not good, paying more for the services than they would need. What this bill does is it brings these type of services under control of the MHIC, also implements rules around these type of contracts. We know that when you're in that kind of situation, you just saved your family out of a fire. You just escaped a hurricane, tornado, whatever it could be. You might not be in the position where you might be thinking as clear as possible to make sure that you are getting the right information for those contracts. So what this bill also does is provides a window of 5 days for people to be able to rescind those contracts they might have signed into and we have the restoration services companies have offered this language and are supportive of this language, but the contract will still allow those to say, hey, you still have to pay up to a certain amount within that contract. We just want to give people the ability when you're signing a contract under distress or in a horrible situation, you want to make sure that you have the ability to make sure that you're thoughtful, you're coordinating with your insurance companies, making sure all the money's going to go where it needs to go. Because we have situations where people have overpaid and they end up losing the normal amount of insurance dollars they would have to restore their house, et cetera. Also, what you'll see in this bill is that originally there is the last page of the bill, Part D, where we were going to impose the local jurisdictions to impose on-site solicitation parameters around when you can do solicitation in person. We've talked to certain restoration companies, and we decided to take that language out of the bill. So you will receive an amendment to remove that language out of the bill because there could be situations where people, there's different reasons why we want to take that out of the bill for right now. But we have an agreement with the restoration services companies like Thomasville who have agreed that they are supportive of the bill as long as you redact that language. So we're okay with redacting that language, and you will get an amendment as soon as I'll get off this microphone. But I just want to make it clear, this bill is about making sure that when people are dealing with disasters and people are in horrible situations, that they are not subject to people trying to, take more money than they need to, making sure that they have the time to process what has happened and to make sure that those contracts that they are dealing with are fair and reasonable and that they have the time to coordinate with their insurance companies. With that said, I asked for a favorable report on House Bill 1348, and I also want to make clear that some of the opposition will claim that this has been brought upon them too soon or it's too fast. But I just want to make clear that the first reading for this bill was presented on February 7th. So this bill has been in the works since February 7th. Since February 7th, I've worked with multiple companies on drafting this language. And I think the first bill hearing was at the very beginning of March. And in between that time, there's been an infinite amount of time for there to be conversations around what needs to happen with this bill. So you're going to hear folks today later say, this is happening too fast, we haven't had time, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, there's been more than enough time to ensure that everyone's voices could be heard. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilwoman.
Okay, again, since it was publicized sponsor only, just if you could be pretty brief here.
Super brief. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Councilwoman Ramos from the 14th District. I am the delegate's councilwoman, and we were at those fires together. I go to all of the disasters in my district and have seen some of these companies soliciting folks who have just come out of the fire or whatever disaster it is and are in such trauma they don't really know what they're signing. So this bill will help those residents to make sure that they have time to talk to their insurance company first, but also to make sure that they're not going to run out of that money to recover because somebody has charged so much more money. So I have been honored to work with the delegate on this. I have a companion bill in Baltimore City Council that is working on this issue as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for indulging me. I appreciate it, and thank you, committee.
Okay, questions for our witnesses? Okay, Senator Watson.
Thank you, Delegate Ambry. Question. So when these types of things happen, is someone coming by and saying, here's a card, let me know if we can be of assistance? Or are they coming, how are they possibly able to come with a contract ready to be filled out without knowing the extent of the damage?
I mean, it happens in various ways. So sometimes it's a card, and then they sign a contract later. Sometimes people are, if let's say something happens at 3 a.m., people get away, they come back to their house at 11 a.m. just to see if they can grab or something, and people are out there still trying to do contracts or sign people up. So it happens, within those first, 14, 15, 16 hours, yes, you can go from cards to contracts. I mean, all of it happens all at once. But in the initial scenes that I have seen, it's been I've seen more cards being distributed, and I've been on the scene. I've seen cards and I've seen contracts. I've seen cards when I was out there literally watching flames and helping my neighbors get to safety, and I've also seen contracts when I've come to a scene maybe in the morning or midday after the fire happened overnight.
Yeah, no question. Fires are tragedy. What I've seen most times is flooding. And when it comes to the flooding, water mitigation needs to happen ASAP.
No, for sure.
I mean, walls start to cave in, roofs collapse, and all of those types of things,
Yeah.
especially if it's a single person that doesn't know where the shut-off valve is.
Right, yeah.
And so it just seems odd that you would preclude someone to be able to give a card to have a service there when time is of the essence. And that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, so
Some of these things, time is of the essence.
No, and I agree, and we're striking Part D, which does take out the rules around solicitation. And I think it's important to understand that we've defined a disaster where emergency services are, here on the site. So it's not like, let's say a water main breaks and your basement gets flooded, that, police and firefighters aren't coming for that. You just go to your basement and you see it's flooded. That would not be under this bill. This bill is for disasters where you are leaving your house, it's trauma, it's disaster is defined where emergency services personnel come to or on the scene. So you're right. I mean, when you have you got to get that water out of that basement as soon as possible. And again, I think we're agreeing to take out Part D, which still leaves for form of solicitation to take place at the scene.
Okay. Any additional questions? Seeing none, that concludes. Oh, it does not. We have opposition testimony. Thank you, Delegate and Councilman.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bariano, you're in opposition to this piece of legislation, House Bill 1348. Okay, Mr. Bariano, why don't you, I think your witness is here for questions only, I think for the most parts. So, Mr. Bariano, you can proceed in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Bruce Bariano. I'm here in opposition to House Bill 1348. I'm here on behalf of Will Caraberis of Platinum Emergency Services, seated there, and also on behalf of Insurance Alliance Company out of Largo, Maryland, an African-American-owned business, in very strong opposition to this bill. I'll try and be as brief as I can, but at this late hour to pass this bill would be very, very wrong, respectfully. First of all, Part D has to come out of this bill because it's unconstitutional, not for any other reason. I've given all of you 4 or 5 cases from Supreme Courts on down that Part D is in violation of the freedom of speech, commercial freedom of speech, said by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the Florida Supreme Court, District Court in the District of Maine, United States District Court, and that's why it's got to come out. It's completely illegal to do that. You cannot restrict the hours and the times. Secondly, as following up what Senator Watson said, some of these situations you got to act immediately. And under your insurance policies, you have to act immediately to mitigate. And if you don't, the insurance companies may try and deny coverage to you in that regard. Now, what the committee needs to understand is that last year, the Senate Finance Committee passed House Bill 36. The governor signed it as Chapter 826, signed by the governor, giving the authority to the insurance commissioner to license and regulate insurance, people that are doing these emergency services. They're called public adjusters, and they're licensed by the state of Maryland through the Insurance Administration. Here you have a bill which is going to be duplicative and conflicting, giving the Home Improvement Commission authority to regulate these same people that the legislature passed a bill giving that authority and that jurisdiction to the insurance commissioner. That doesn't make any sense and is all wrong. Lastly, I would just say very quickly, if you please look on page 7 of the bill, lines 31 through 33, that provision only allows, if there is a rescission, collection of a penalty. I don't know what a penalty is. I have my own view of it, but you have worked for several days on mitigation, time and materials. I don't know if you can even get that money if that's in the word penalty. Would urge an unfavorable report. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Sir, we would kind of change a little bit of rules. Okay, you're here. We did have the 2 witnesses. What's your name, first of all?
My name is William Caraberis.
Okay, if you could just briefly, if you want to just, give us a minute.
Very briefly.
And then we need to move
I want to
on.
read this quick. Just to let you guys know, I came here every single day since this bill was going on. I haven't had any chance to testify whatsoever. A lot of this stuff's been happening at nighttime and everything else. And there's 100 companies in this business that want to testify. So please, it'd take me 4 minutes to read this, and this is representing some of the largest companies in the world.
Because we have a big, long list of stuff. If you could truncate it into 2, that'd be great, okay?
Okay.
Why don't we start the 2-minute clock? Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is William Carabaris. I'm the owner of Platinum Emergency Services, a Maryland-based company that proudly serves communities across the state since 2002. I'm here today to express my strong opposition to House Bill 1348. While I understand the bill is well maintained, it places unconstitutional restrictions on essential lawful communication between emergency service providers and disaster victims. And as it does, so at the worst time, right after emergency. Let me be clear. Emergency mitigation is not the same as general contracting or restoration. Emergency mitigation involves immediate steps taken after a fire, flood, or storm to prevent further damage and protect life and property. This includes water removal, structural stabilization, smoke and soot containment, and mold prevention. These services must happen within hours, not days. Delaying it can lead to severe property loss, health risk, and increased insurance costs. House Bill 1348 would allow local governments to decide when, where, and how contractors can offer these critical services as a disaster, potentially banning all in-person communication with homeowners. That is just bad policy. It's unconstitutional. Under the 14th Amendment and the U.S. Constitution, Article 14 of Maryland Declaration of Rights, truthful, lawful, commercial speech is protected. Courts across the country have repeatedly struck down these laws. Multiple cases that he referred to. House Bill 1348 assumes that disaster victims are too vulnerable to receive or evaluate offers of help. That is a dangerous, permalistic assumption. What they really need is the moments to access to accurate information and immediate services, not delayed causes by overbroad bans. Rather than addressing fraud or deception through targeted enforcement or clearly disclosed, this bill imposes a blanket restriction that will prevent even licensed insureds and well-intentioned professionals from helping people in need.
Thank you for coming down here, sir. We appreciate your testimony. Senator Carrozza, sir, you could just go back down. We do have a question. Okay, Senator Carrozza.
Thank you. I'm going to be very brief. Mr. Bariano, I'm empathetic to the situation that the delegate described, but I think from your testimony, you're saying those type of situations would already be addressed through the Maryland insurance. That's I mean, there's another way to address it other than through this bill?
This bill needs more work. This issue needs more work. If you look at Chapter 826, the legislature passed last year, House Bill 36. The Senate passed it, signed by the governor, and it tried to grapple with this issue by giving the authority to the insurance commissioner to issue to public adjusters license authority to come in and deal with these situations.
So MIA has that authority now?
Yes, they do. That law's in effect. It's in effect right now. My clients even applied for such a license. If you look at this bill, it brings in the Home Improvement Commission, which it's an entirely different stage and circumstance of bringing in renovations and corrections and everything. And it would be duplicative and conflicting, in my opinion, of what you all did last year. And we don't need conflicting governmental regulations. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any additional questions? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on House Bill 1348. Folks, we got to do a reboot, right, Lemoria? We're 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back and take on, we have a voting list number 38. And so at your opportunity, you can, 1063, we're not doing it. That's canceled, that hearing.